Hey there guys, how's it going? Just recently Askar sent over one of their 120 Apo triplets for review and evaluation on my channel. They also sent over the 1x field flattener and the 0.8x flattener reducer along with it for testing. And I'm happy to say I finally have tested it, and I've got 4 different data sets I want to show you throughout the course of this video. We're going to dive straight into that, but if you want to see my first impressions, talking about kind of the initial impressions on build quality and finish, that kind of thing, just in the link in the description box down below, you'll see the link to my other video where I talk about that kind of thing. But just to kind of summarize it for you very quickly, I was really impressed with the build quality, fit and finish of the telescope. In particular, I think as well, worth note again, is that focuser and rotator. It was so nicely built, I thought, that it had no real business being on a telescope of this kind of price point, without sounding too silly. I do want to kind of give you one more final point about this. I like the telescope so much, I put my money where my mouth is and I bought it. So it's now mine, and it's not leaving the observatory anytime soon, I can tell you that. So anyway, let's dive straight into these first tests. Now, Askar claim that this thing can cover a full frame sensor, and that's no mean feat on a telescope of this price bracket. But I'm happy to say that when testing it over here, as you can see on M101, so the same field of view for both of these tests taken on the same night, indeed, I managed to prove it. So I'm going to point out to you that this is both taken with the UV IR cut filter in this case. So this is, you know, not complete broadband light, just the UV and the IR have been snipped off, like you should always do when imaging with a refractor or really trying to take galaxy images of any kind. But there's no processing done to this whatsoever. This is a basic image given an SDF stretch, and I'm doing that so that you can see the full vignette pattern, what you could kind of expect on a full frame camera. So let's take a look over in the corners. I want to show you the performance of this thing. So as you can see, perfectly round stars in the absolute corner on the 1x field flattener. You know, beautiful stars all the way around. In fact, on the 1x field flattener, I think the stars look just as good, basically, in the corner as they do in the center, which is quite something on a full frame telescope. You know, we're looking at this 2:1 view. Nothing applied, no blur exterminator or anything like that, no corrections whatsoever. This is stacked data that's been screen stretched, and that's it. It's a sharp telescope, and I have to say I'm dead impressed with it. You know, I bought it, like I said. But over here, just on the right now, if we take a look at this one. So this is the 0.8x reducer that we're taking a look at now. So this was used at its actually stated 55mm backfocal distance, along with M48 adapters. I'm giving you this extra information for a reason. I'll talk about that in a moment. This is only 31 2-minute shots, so just above 1 hour. And as you can see, there's a little bit of vignette in the corners. I agree that it looks like mechanical vignette, but it isn't. This actually does correct out completely fine, even with Gradient Expert, not even with flats, you know what I mean? It'll get rid of all of that. But what you can see when used at 55mm is a little bit of perhaps chromatic aberration creeping in. Now, I did some testing with this thing after this initial kind of set of results came in for me, and I experimented with the back focus distance when using it with that reducer, and I found that while the stars still look great, you know, like this, they could actually be cleaned up even more. So just a little bit more by increasing your back focal distance when using the reducer to 58mm, in my case, ended up being the sweet spot. So, you know, if you do get one with the reducer, it may be worth looking at your adapters that you have on hand. And I would also recommend, if you can at all, switching to M56 adapters all the way through. So this was taken with M48, as I said before. And as you can see, the light kind of cone at that point was being ever so slightly vignetted by those fittings, as it's a lot better looking over on this next image right here. So this was with M56 fittings. This has been very slightly processed, so I'll just undo that for you. So that's Gradient Expert that had been applied, but this is the unprocessed, just SDF'd image, and as you can see, that vignette pattern is far far less when used with M56. And this is the slightly extended distance on back focus too. And hopefully you can see the stars, even went 2 to 1. You know, they've tightened up that ever so slight little bit more when used with the reducer. Either way, when used at 55, it was still more than good enough for me, but I just thought, why not experiment and give you guys as much information as I can about this thing. So for me, the reducer worked better at 58 millimeters rather than 55, but both were acceptable as it happens. Now, over on the left with the 1x flattener, there is, actually no vignette really visible at this point. Again, unprocessed, all the stars are nice and clean in every single corner. I don't need to really go through and show you every single one of those, I guess, but there it is. And with just a very small amount of processing applied, so you can see redo pixel math right there. All that was an application of Gradient Expert at complete default settings. Nothing special. And here we have, in just 30 minutes, this is 10 3-minute shots over on the reduced side. A beautifully detailed image, you know what I mean? It's razor sharp as this telescope. I have to say, I used to own an Esprit 120 and I'd rank this thing right up there with it optically. Extremely impressed. And I actually prefer the focuser on this to my old Esprit too. What can you say? It is what it is. Really, 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 really impressed with its full frame performance. I think this thing is absolutely outstanding for the money. So that was that. Now, I wanted to do 2 more tests for you. So what we're going to take a look at is 3 different versions of these 2 targets, taken in 2 different conditions. So on the left, M51 was taken with a UV IR cut filter, like you really should be using on a refractor telescope, especially when imaging galaxies. And over on the right was used without any filtration whatsoever, so completely clear glass, no filtration, along with, in both cases, a camera that's very, very sensitive to those extended wavelengths, such as infrared, and that is the IMX585, in my case, the Uranus C Pro. I wanted to do that in order to see just, how much UV bloat there was happening, as it's absolutely to be expected on all refractors. The only thing that will kind of focus the entire broadband spectrum at one perfectly apochromatic focal point would be a pure reflector system. So just mirrors only, no corrective optics, like a uncorrected Ritchey-Chrétien, for example. But a refractor, any that you buy, be it Takahashi or Esprit or one of these, they can't always focus everything all at once. So as you can see, there's a little bit of evidence of that. So stars of similar brightness are very slightly bloated on the right hand image, where there's no infrared filtration going on, or ultraviolet for that matter. So my recommendation always would be use a UV IR cut filter on this thing, as you do lose some galaxy detail anyway. As someone pointed out in the comments a while back, the filamentary detail in dust lanes is also nuked a little bit by not using UV IR. Now the next step on this I wanted to show you is just with spectrophotometric color calibration applied and Gradient Expert. So no calibration frames again on any of these have been used actually. I just want to make that clear in order for you to see, the scope's performance when it's just purely lights being stacked. And once again, you can see that little bit of fringing on those stars. It's nothing bad, by the way. I do want to point that out. I know I'm making a point of mentioning it, but that's just so I can give you every single fact I'm in the possession of. I want you to have the full picture. If you are thinking about purchasing this telescope, then I'll feel like I've done my job at least. But once again, over on the left, you can see those similarly bright stars. A little bit neater when used with an UV IR cut filter, along with the amount of detail on display too. So that's not had any of the exterminator tools applied. And now finally, as a third comparison, what we could call roughly processed images. So this I just ran through very quickly before recording this video, and then applied, blur exterminator, noise exterminator, and some masked saturation applied to these. So the stars have been saturated along with the galaxy, but the background's basically been left alone. So simulating very approximately my usual kind of galaxy processing techniques. And as you can see, there's tons of colour been picked up on this thing in just 93 minutes. Very impressive for my Portal 7 skies here. I think with a 10-hour image or something like you really should be doing, if you want to get the absolute best results, this would look absolutely tremendous, and I look forward to giving it that kind of attention as soon as the skies clear up and allow me to do so. But you'll know, no UV bloat whatsoever, lots of filamentary dust lane detail. Over on the right, however, there is a slight amount, if I go up to 2:1 zoom, of kind of purple bloat fringing like you'd expect to see from a refractor when used without UV IR cut filter. So it's there for you, just for the sake of completeness. Make sure you use a UV IR cut filter like you should anyway. It shouldn't be news really to anybody, but there it is, and I wanted to include it. So I hope that this has been useful. I think of particular note really is its performance over full frame. If it'll cover this thing, what more do you want for a telescope of this price range? You know what I mean? I've been very, very impressed when used here with a dual narrowband filter. Everything's sharp, it's clean. Really, really happy with it, basically. Hence buying it. And so there you have it. I just want to leave it at that anyway, guys. And just say, as always, thank you very much indeed for your support. Kind of double thanks for your support on this one, as it's helped me actually afford to buy this telescope and keep it. So thanks again for that one, guys. It really does mean a lot to me. I won't keep you too long. I'll just say thanks very much for watching. Look after yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. So until then, bless, guys.